This is the first part of my new workbench build video. In this video I'll be showing you how I built the main carcass of the workbench up to the point where I put the worktop in place. Anyone who watched my recent workshop tour video will know that I have two separate workbenches along the left hand side of my garage. They're very basic and offer very little in the way of storage and aren't particularly stable. My intention is to move away from open shelf storage and construct a number of cupboards and drawers to help keep the dust out of my essentials. I started the build by dismantling the old workbenches. Here you can see the exact moment I realised I'd glued and screwed the old bench, making my job an awful lot more difficult. The most logical course of action here was to break out the persuader. Here you can see some of the space created by removing the old workbench. The main structure of the new bench is constructed from 63mm by 38mm C16 timber, which I bought from a large orange branded DIY retailer. The first task was to fix a batten to the wall to provide a standoff from the single skin brick work and hopefully provide space for a bit of ventilation behind. I was particularly pleased with how level I got the batten. That'll be going on my CV. Next up were the two main frames. These would form the main span across the front and back of the workbench and form the main structure. Here is a photo after the first stage of the build. You can see the space which the new bench will occupy, and the two main frames propped up against the wall in the background there. On the second evening of the build, I fixed the frames to the wall batten, with bracing pieces in between each section. Each leg of the main frame had an adjustable foot, so I could dial in the level. This is the picture of the main frame of the bench in situ. As you can see, the frame is elevated off the floor a little by the adjustable feet, as the workshop floor isn't particularly level in any plane. The top of the bench is a piece of 18mm hardwood ply. It's probably not the most hard-wearing surface, but it's cheap and easy to replace. Here I am cutting a small notch to accommodate the brick pier in the wall. And here is said notch fitting perfectly first time right where it should. The top is screwed in place with a handful of countersunk 40mm screws. Definitely no wood glue this time around. I trimmed up the edges of the workbench with a flush cut bit in my router. I left a bit too much material on to trim in one pass, so it took a while, but I got there in the end. Though I do think I stressed the router out a little bit. Next I cut some more timber for the cross bracing. By this time I was getting quite good at hitting the off-cut bin from a good 3 metre distance. Bracing is intended to provide stability to the frames and support for the draw runners. The braces are held in place with pocket screws. I don't really get along with pocket screws, but they serve a purpose and they were pretty useful in this build really. Next I slapped on a load of water-based polyurethane. I'm hoping to keep the worst of the grease and grime out of the wood, and I'm hoping the polyurethane will help with that. In hindsight, I didn't need to put nearly as much on as I did, and I certainly wouldn't have applied it with a 1-inch brush. This photo shows the main structure of the workbench complete. By this time the frame was sturdy and the top was level in all directions, so it was already a big step forward from the previous bench. More cuts with the miter saw. The Evolution chews through this softwood, and I find the stock blade still gives a pretty decent cut even after 2 years. Next is a plinth for the table saw. The plan is for the saw to stand perpendicular to the workbench, giving me greater cut capacity on both sides of the blade. This is a simple frame supported by cabinet legs. I added a supporting frame for the saw, but I forgot to film this. And this is where I'm going to end this video. Sorry for the shaky camera work. In the final photo, you'll see the workbench as it is at this point. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up, and if you're feeling really bold, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.